I call this meeting of the Fangirls Club to order. I'm Brielle.
And I'm Haley, and welcome to part 2 of our Crescent City 3 House of Flame and Shadow recap / discussion. Whew. So today we're going to be finishing up our little summary of part 1, and then we're going to try our best to get through part 2. I think we learned last time that there a lot happens in this book, even more than we originally remember.
Crazy.
So I think I'm prepared to take on this next chunk.
Okay,
me
too.
And discuss.
Yeah.
Great. Can I ask you a question?
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Brielle, what did you fangirl over this week?
I watched season 1 of School Spirits.
Yay! Oh my god.
So I'm caught up on that, and then I watched the first episode of the new season that just came out for season 2. So I'll need to. Did the whole season drop, or what? Was it like a full season thingy? Or?
No, they dropped like a couple episodes, and then it's been weekly. So they're on episode 6 already.
Oh, okay.
And a lot happens. It's good.
Ooh, okay, yeah. So I have to catch up to that.
Yay!
But that was fun. It was cute.
It's a really fun watch.
Yeah.
It's
the first few episodes, I was like, oh, this is cute.
Without being like, it's not too dark.
Yeah. But then the last episode, I was like, oh.
It does get there. Yeah, it gets there. It's like really sad, but I don't know. I think they still keep it lighthearted almost, and it's fresh.
Yeah.
It's a fresh take on like teenage angst and like.
Yeah, I liked the
high school death.
I liked the part of it that they were clearly disappointed about the fact that like being ghosts, but they can't like haunt anyone.
Yeah.
Was funny. Because I was like, oh, well then what are they supposed to do?
Yeah.
If they can't even haunt anybody in this school.
I know.
Boo. But no, it was still fun. I liked it.
They do some really cool things with that like whole thing in the second season.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Okay. But then besides that, yeah, I finished Onyx Storm, so I'm depressed.
I'm sorry. You could jump into my brain and finish reading it for me, and then you could have the experience all over again, but you're me.
You don't want to?
No, I do. I
don't want to take that from you.
I just got to a great part, so I know I need to get going. There's just so much TV to watch.
There's just too much TV.
Which is awful, but amazing.
What about you?
What did I fangirl over this week? What happened this week? I had a good one, too.
TV.
I know. I've officially decided that this last episode that we watched of Severance has been my favorite of the series so far.
Why?
I loved the dinner scene with and Burv.
Bert and Ernie?
And Burv. Irv and Bert and Fields. Who, by the way, plays Lord Denethor in Lord of the Rings. And I was so excited I squealed when I saw him. Anyway, I thought that was like the best acted scene in all of It was just so good. And I feel like there's so much to unpack.
Everyone
with
makes certain faces sometimes, and I'm always like, why are you making that
face?
I
know. All of them were doing that. So I fangirled over that for sure, especially that scene and those actors.
I fangirled over Dylan's wife having an affair with his
so soon. We all thought for a second maybe that's where they will go with it. Not even sure. And for them to just like get right to it. I'm like, okay.
I'm obsessed.
These are the little answers they can give us.
What a juicy love triangle. I cannot wait.
I feel like there are so many love triangles,
quadruplets.
So many crazy things anyway. Anyway, we could go on. But Severance probably number 1. And this non-alcohol... Am I allowed to do this? Non-alcoholic beer that Tom Holland made.
Thanks, Tom.
Made by hand.
Yeah, what did I say? You gotta support us in small business.
Yes. This non-alcoholic IPA that he made, Bureau, by Tom Holland, our hero.
I cannot. Thanks, Tom. All of these.
Our other shows.
Traders, as always.
Oh, gosh, yes. Are we ready?
I think so, because we still have to finish part 1 real quick, so we gotta dive on in.
Okay, yes. And I'll keep it succinct. You can just hit me if I'm...
This part, especially, we had to skip it last week because it was going to be too long.
There was no way.
How do we...
I think that I have
summarize?
A pretty good...
Okay.
The main points of what happened in that chamber.
So we left off frat boys plus Therion plus 3 sprites all left and are fleeing Viper Queen meat market area because the sprites caught the Viper Queen's lair on fire.
That's right,
so
yes.
now they're leaving, like rushing away.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we wrapped up.
Which sucks because they were all technically free. And then the fire sprites were just like,
yeah, I don't really know why
Mischief.
that happened.
Loved it though.
But that's like the last part of part 1 that we actually wrapped up.
Yeah.
And then so this is now Bryce,
Because
Az, and Nesta.
So back in Prithian, Bryce, Az, and Nesta have just squabbled and defeated the Midguard worm. And they're making their way through the tunnels. And then after all of that, they enter into this room that has a, like, almost like a hologram of who comes to be, who we know as Selene, Queen Thea's daughter. One of Queen Thea's 2 daughters. But we don't know that at the beginning of this whole chunk. But this hologram talks to Bryce, and she tells her this, like, extremely long, like, seemingly 20 chapter story.
Dude, I was not expecting that to happen because they've just been hidden in the caves for so long. So all of a sudden, like, we got the most
Info
epic
dump.
monologue. I was like, whoa.
I guess. If only we could have learned this through, like, the markings that were throughout the tunnel. She could have pieced that all together. Anyway, Bryce and Selene have this long chat, and basically it's confirmed through this conversation that it's true that the Asteri were the Daglin, and they ruled in Prithian, but were defeated by the High King and Queen Thea, and they were banished. Yes, so Queen Thea destroyed them using the Dread Trove, and Thea wields the Trove because over time she becomes sort of like greedy, and so she uses the Trove to open a portal to Midguard, and she learns a bunch of stuff there, mainly that she confirms sort of this water ritual, which we know as the drop, to power the Asteri to survive. And they go to war, essentially. And Thea enlists the help from the Princes of Hell. Thea has 2 daughters in the meantime. Selene is able to escape and go back to Prithian. Selene, the daughter of Thea, goes back to Prithian using the harp and the Truth Teller dagger that Azrael now owns.
That's when they separated the sword and the dagger in that moment.
Yes.
When Selene left.
Selene
and
grabs
who's the other daughter?
Helena.
Yes. Helena stays back with the sword.
Correct.
And Selene leaves with the dagger.
And so those are like the big gists of that conversation. And those are the big things that we learn anyway. So Bryce, like, contemplates all this information, and she realizes exactly what she needs in order to create her own portal to get back to Prithian. To get back to Midguard.
She finds out in that story that Thea separated her, like, star power into 3. She kept a third and then gave a piece each to 2 of her daughters.
Yes.
And so technically through, like, her lineage, Bryce has Thea's power. But it's not her full power because she split it. Somehow in that story, she ends up learning that Selene left part of her power in that star that she's standing on to get this mirage of her. So after the whole story happened, she, like, goes, let me try it. And that's when she, like, leans down and, like, sucks up that power.
Yes.
And then she gets, 2/3 now? So she's almost complete.
Yes, 2/3 of her power.
Oh, so with the star that's on the floor that she, like, pulls the power from?
Yes.
That is another, like, 8-pointed star that matches the one on her chest. And when Nesta first finds her, she recognizes that star. She's because I've seen it before. So when they show up and then she sees the 8-pointed star on the floor, she's like, this is where I saw it before. Because they discover that, like, actually where they've all traveled to somehow is, like, they're now in the prison.
Right.
From the Akatar prison.
Yes.
And that's where Nesta found the harp.
Yes, correct.
And so the harp was, like, sitting on the star. That's where the hologram pops up. And Az says Selene looks just like Reese's sister. Which is fun. And they mentioned that the Dread Trove was in 4 parts and the horn was one of them. And that they used the cauldron to create the star sword and the dagger.
Yeah.
Oh, so after she sucks up the power, she kind of like explodes with light and it freaks them out. So she tries to stop Az from flying away. And with that, it ends up breaking some of the floor below them. And they end up falling into a cavern where they find an Asteri. Daglin is just like hiding in a coffin down there this whole time. And Bryce just like decides to let her out. I don't know why she does that.
I know.
Every time it autocorrects to Bruce. Anyway, so they let her out. I think because Bryce figured she's been down there this whole time without being able to suck up people's power. So she like might be weak, so it's fine. Eventually they end up having a whole fight scene. And they might lose for a second, but then Nesta beheads her with her sword, Ataraxia. And Bryce notes that on the coffin the Asteri was in is kind of made as the same crystal that all the gates in Midguard are made out of. So that's where she pulls the dagger and the sword from them. And with like all her new power and everything, she uses like the crystal of the gates. That's how she can create those portals. That she then goes, see ya, and leaves them behind.
Yes. And so
that's like
basically
the 5th time she pissed them off.
Yeah.
So that's Miss Bryce. Just to finish off with the rest of the group in part 1 is just the 3 guys being tortured in the dungeon in the Asteri's palace. We get a little note of that Hunt keeps seeing something in the corner in the darkness. And eventually he ends up learning that it's Apollyon and Adis. And he knows them, that they are the 2 princes of hell. And he gets all excited and he goes, oh my god, is Bryce with you? Because when Bryce escaped, she was supposed to try and get to hell. And they go, no, why would she be with us? So then he starts to panic because they don't know where she is then. And then besides that, they were kind of being cryptic as usual. But the only other kind of worthy thing they noted was that they mentioned something about his father. And he got really confused because he's like, I don't have a dad. What are you talking about?
Right.
But it was just like an interesting, weird thing for them to bring up. So he was just confused. And then besides that, right before part 1 ends, this is when Ruhn comes up with the whole idea. And he is like, Hunt, I need you to be the Umbra Mortis again. And I need you to get all tough. And I'm going to need you to bite off my hand so I can not be bound by this chain. And I can swing on over here to get to the weapons to help us escape. And Hunt is like, no, what the fuck? What are you talking about? And that's when Baxian's just like, technically, like, I'm like part dog, so like my teeth are sharper, so I can do it better. And he's like, don't worry, Hunt, I got you. And then like that's how it ends.
It's pretty gnarly.
I remember reading that's the part I immediately texted you, and I was like, he's gonna do what? Like I
know. I was just like, and then what are you going? That's what I kept thinking. And then what are you going to do, sir?
Escape? I don't know.
Okay.
Like a little nub.
Like, if they can even walk, you know?
I know.
I was like, this is ridiculous. I mean, you gotta get out of there, but I don't know if this is the best plan. We saw it in a movie.
Yeah, I saw it in a movie once. It sounds like a great idea. All right. Part 2.
Okay. So, I'm going to start with Ithan. So, we've already mentioned that they escaped because the fire sprites set the Viper Queen's den on fire.
Wherever. Warehouse.
Yeah. But whatever, because they all get out of there and they're all going to act out this plan to get themselves to the depth charger.
Is that where they head first?
Well, first they hack the Asteri Palace computers, which is part of Lydia's plan to help her get Hunt and Ruhn and Baxian out because she had met them at the meat market previous to be hash it out. So that's what they do first. And then
does she give them one of those like little beans or something?
I think she does. But Ithan decided not to go with them because he's having a monumental crisis immediately because he just killed what could have been his alpha. And we all know like his already existing trauma from losing his family, his pack, everything. And now this on his hand, literally by his hand. So anyway, he is like just is crashing out.
Yeah.
And so he opts to run over to no other place but the place I was expecting the least, the House of Flame and Shadow. And he goes down to meet with Jessica.
Mm-hmm.
And is that kind of where it leaves off until the next, like...
Does he mean to meet up with her? Or, like, was he going down there? Oh!
No, because we don't know that.
I wonder, like, was he going down there specifically to want to meet with her? Or was he just trying to go down there because he knew he wanted...
He could find a necromancer.
Both and or...
Yes.
And or one of them.
Anyway.
I remember that chapter is so funny because then it just ends and he goes, I need a necromancer. And I was like, Ethan, not now.
I'm like, come on, man. You did what you did. Just let it go.
You literally cannot.
There are so many things going on right now.
That's what you... Okay.
So that's kind of where we leave off with him.
Cool.
Until his shenanigans with Jessica.
The 3... tortured boys in the dungeons.
The tortured poets.
The tortured poet boys. Basically what we just first see of them is that in the end of part 1, it was clear that Pollux and the others are kind of getting annoyed with trying to torture them because they're not giving them any details. They're not giving them anything. So they're like, okay, whatever. Tomorrow we're going to pick one of you to kill first. We'll let you know tomorrow. And that's where it kind of left off. So the first thing we just see of them real quick is that it becomes obvious and they reveal that they're going to try and kill Ruhn first because that's the one that would threaten / hurt the most people.
Mm-hmm.
And so Hunt's like, well, shit. I can't let that happen.
Yeah.
And the best part is that they see that. And that's why they start rushing off. And originally when Ruhn is first like, okay, you need to bite off my hand.
Yes.
Because we know they're going to kill one of us tomorrow. So like we got to get out of here. So right as Baxian finishes biting off his hand, like he literally just finishes. And that's when Pollux comes down. He goes like, oh, wow. Good job, guys. But we're still going to kill you. And so...
all for nothing.
Like... There was a whole graphic scene describing how he's like biting off his whole hand. Hunt, Baxian, and Ruhn are brought up in an elevator by the Hawk. That's when they meet up with Lydia, who also gets into the elevator with them.
Yep. And
Lydia shoots the Hawk in the face.
Literally in the face.
And this is step 1 of her, great escape plan. So that's in that moment how Baxian finds out about Lydia. Because this whole time he didn't know what Ruhn and Hunt knew.
That's got to be a little overwhelming.
Because he just bit off Ruhn's hand. He just bit off
Ruhn's hand, and then he thinks like he's for sure going to his death with everyone, like all of them around him.
And the Hind of all people turns around and shoots the Hawk in the face.
Yep, I know. It's crazy.
These poor dudes. My God.
But they make it.
And then she's like, all right, let's go, guys. And they're all like, what?
I know.
So this is when, the whole great escape starts.
Yes.
And so they jump into, like, this Jeep looking thing, kind of like in Halo when they have, like, the big machine gun thing on the back.
Yeah.
And, like, they're the ones driving the Jeep in the front. So Lydia, like, gets on in and she's like, all right, guys, let's go. And she gets onto the radio. And they hear Declan's voice pop on the radio, and Ruhn starts like instantly sobbing.
Yes.
It's his friend. So now he can like start putting together that his friends are in on this, and that like, okay, maybe Lydia is actually trying to help us. So they get through all these gates and these guards, and eventually they make their way to like this white van, and Flynn does like the slidey door, and he's all
it's
smiley.
So cinematic.
And then he instantly goes, where the fuck is your hand?
They're such idiots, actually. And that's why this book is so great.
Oh, God. The big distraction that she ended up coordinating to help them escape was that she coordinated a ton of rebels to detonate throughout a bunch of different parts of the city.
At the mech suits, too, right?
I think so. Of just throughout different big points.
Yeah.
So a bunch of bombs and, everything's exploding.
Crazy.
So that does help with the distraction because it helps them get out of more gates and out of the main part of the Asteri Palace and all of that. Yep. But now they are tracking that Mordok and the Dread Wolves are chasing after them.
I hate them.
So they are trying their best to get away and make it towards the coast.
Yeah.
to get to the depth charger.
Yeah.
And so she runs a separate way for a distraction as the guys try to fly to the ship.
So chivalrous.
And like keeping in mind like Baxian and Hunt are literally just like grew their new wings after getting them cut off because they've been tortured.
Yeah, so they're and obviously they're just weak in general. Like it's a mess.
So she's like, good luck carrying Ruhn. Like you gotta go fly to this fucking giant submarine that's in the middle of the ocean. I'm gonna run this way.
Yep.
So Ruhn's freaking out because he was like, wait, we can't leave her to die. Blah, blah,
Oh, well,
blah.
Ruhn.
Yeah, you're being mean to her.
Even though you were being tortured.
So eventually the boys do make it over to the depth charger, but Ruhn's like absolutely losing his mind because they left Lydia behind to be the distraction. And they meet up with Therion on the top of the depth charger.
Yay!
And he's like, hey guys, what's up? And Ruhn's freaking out. He's like, you have to go help her. Go help her. And Therion's like, what the hell am I supposed to do? And he was like, you,
Swimmer,
water,
swim.
Basically. So Therion like swims over as fast as his little mermaid tail can take him. And right as he gets closer to the coast, they see Lydia like leap off like Pocahontas.
Yeah.
You know, and she does like the really graceful
Oh,
leap.
yeah. I know exactly what you're talking
She
about.
does a really big graceful leap. Well, she's also in her hind form right now too.
Yep.
So she's
a little deal.
Leaps off, and she, you know, if she makes it to the bottom, it's such a giant fall. She's probably going to die anyway.
Yeah.
But as she's like midair, one of the Dreadwolves or Mordok himself, I don't remember, like shoots her in the chest. And
down she goes.
So Therion does his best to like kind of raise up like a wave of water to kind of help her fall a little bit, and it does help, but she also has a giant hole in her body from the shot.
Wow.
That's where that group is.
I said Baxian, Ruhn, and Hunt, they make it to the depth charger.
They made it.
Yay! Nothing about the hind at all.
So
it's like she
helps
lives.
them escape.
But at what cost?
Dead.
She's literally dead.
And Ruhn is losing his mind.
Yep. Great.
Anyway, where's Bryce?
So we find Bryce. We're thinking, did she make it back to Prythian? And surely, I keep saying that. Did she make it from Prythian back to Midguard? And surely we think she's going to go to her apartment or somehow the palace to try and save the boys. No. She ends up in her father's house, the Autumn King's home.
She's acting like all confused. She was like, why am I here?
Yeah. And we thought the same. We're like, what the fuck are you doing there, Bryce? Last place I expected her to be.
Yeah.
We later learned that she meant to land here. And it was not an accident because she wanted to find out more about the Dread Trove and the weapons, the Truth Teller dagger and her Star Sword, and how that all relates to Thea's power. Could she find a piece of that power here? What has her dad been researching all of these years? All of that. And she puts it under the guise of like, I'm letting my dad like think he's kidnapped me and like keeping me prisoner. Really, it's my plan all along. Long story short, she realizes that she has to get to the depth charger. How?
He does let her know that he did just find out that the guys did escape.
Yeah.
And that's how she knows they're at least not in the palace. Oh, he ends up telling her that he has found out that like when they stab something simultaneously,
yeah,
it can like create like a void, practically what we know of as like a black hole, essentially.
Yes. Oh yeah.
And that's how those two weapons together, if they're wielded by someone able to use them properly, is like the only thing able to kill the Asteri, because it literally like warps them into a black hole, into
oblivion.
Nothing.
Yeah.
And how he ended up learning that, I think that got a little lost on me.
His astronomy research.
Yeah, he
is all.
Like that's his whole life has been dedicated to this.
Yeah.
Basically, I don't think she knows mentally she wants to go to the depth charger. She thinks of home.
Home, and it's Hunt, of course. Of course. How could I forget that part? And so she locks her dad in a basement.
It's like behind a door.
Behind some door. She's like, haha, gotcha. Bye, Dad. And she teleports to the depth charger.
Woo.
Where she can finally reunite with Hunt. her brother,
Yay.
and all of her friends.
She did it. We had that escape. She's now escaping her daddies, even though this whole time she wasn't actually a prisoner. She planned it.
Indeed.
Where are we? Oh, Ithan.
Okay, you go.
Ethan's now working for Jessica.
Yeah. In exchange for her helping him find a necromancer,
Yes.
helping him with this
interesting exchange.
quest, he's got to just shelve some books for her.
Yeah, she was like, "Oh, Bryce used to talk so highly of you, and I need a new assistant. So like, do some work for me, and then I'll help you." And he goes, "Okay."
What a character. She like.
Yeah, a very odd
So cool.
person, but
We
in
learn a
the
lot about
end,
her.
This is how we end up learning some of her backstory.
A lot.
Because he's asking a lot of questions, and she's kind of just like, "Sure, I'll tell you." And she used to be a human.
Mm-hmm.
And we find out that she was a priestess at the Library of Pathos, and that's why she had all of the ancient secret books,
Mm-hmm.
and she had the ancient library. She's had them this whole time.
What?
So while she was escaping way back when the Asteri were like attacking, and they were nervous to lose all the books,
Yeah.
she was escaping. This part, again, I was like, wow, okay. She ended up getting stopped by Apollyon, one of the princes of hell,
Yeah.
who was like, "Oh, wow, you have these books? Interesting. Let me read them. / what do they mean? Tell me." And she goes, "No." So
No.
he curses her with immortality. But when he cursed her, this was directly after he ate one of the Asteri. So he like had too much power in him. So when he cursed her, he like accidentally transferred some of his magic over to her.
Yeah, it was like super curse.
So he curses her with immortality, but like also gave her a little bit of his power.
Yep.
So she just like weirdly has a little bit of baby bit of a power from one of the princes of hell. And that's how she has become this weird magical being that no one ever really knew what she was.
Yeah.
Which at the time I was like, interesting. Why are we learning all of this right now? We figure it out later.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how she got her magic. And her purpose for life and just like living this, and like she's old.
Yeah.
Her purpose for living this whole time has just been protecting these books. That's basically Ithan and Jessica. He's just like organizing and assisting her right now.
Yeah.
Until she finds him a necromancer, and he's like, "When are you gonna help me?" And she goes like, "Keep working."
Yeah. She's scary, man. Like you just do what she says.
Yeah.
Should we go back to the depth charge?
Everyone else is over there. Yeah.
That's true.
They
Okay.
all made it.
They all made it. And we learn that Lydia does live. She's being treated in like the hospital wing of the depth charger. And Ruhn has been by her side the whole time.
Refuses to sleep anywhere else.
He refuses to sleep anywhere else. He won't leave her. But when she wakes up, she's pissed at him. She's like, no. And she suddenly like storms out of the room and starts running. And no one knows where she's running to. And it turns out that she's running to this classroom where there are two little boys like playing in the classroom, and they turn out to be her sons.
Casual.
So we learn Lydia had two sons who live on the depth charger with two stepdads. And adopted. They were adopted. And they've been raised by them, and they don't really know Lydia.
Mm-hmm.
They've never really known her in their whole lives because in return for their safety, she has been serving the Ocean Queen.
This whole
time. Serving the Ocean Queen by serving the Asteri, by torturing people and killing people.
To keep these two kids. How old are they? They're like tweens?
Yeah.
Like 12 or something like that? Okay. Because, they were like talking and having full blown. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
But even the dads didn't know, like, they just knew that, like, their mom was, like, somewhat undercover or something. But
yeah.
I thought it was interesting that even the dads were like, we had no idea who you were.
Yeah,
either.
exactly. So we kind of realize this is why she's been so, like, extra distraught, moody, angry.
Yeah.
Because she's just, like, grappling with
She's a mother.
meeting her kids again for the first time, and one of them, like, you know, hates her, and just it's overwhelming.
Yeah.
So she's going through it.
But she did get to meet them.
And she got to meet them,
and
which was
have
cool.
a nice
Great.
Conversation.
Yeah.
Kind of.
And she took it all very well, and she was just like, she's very steadfast, and it's for the best. It's for the best. So that was really cool.
Yeah.
We got to see like this completely different side of Lydia. And now
she's the one pushing Ruhn away.
and she's pushing.
They just
yeah,
like
it's
keep
like this,
switching on and off.
Yeah, what's that trope? Just like wrong time. I don't know.
Anger and miscommunication.
That's kind of like sort of like Adian and Lysandra sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, Lydia's like,
yeah. This is also where we learn that now that the 3 tortured poet dudes are slowly coming to and healing too.
yes.
Hunt is trying to demand a meeting with the Ocean Queen.
Right.
Which, like, no one's ever, like, met her. Like, you do not meet and you do not talk to her. And apparently she's terrifying.
Yeah.
So he keeps, like, pushing different, like, lieutenants and people. And he's like, I need a meeting with the Ocean Queen. And then eventually one of the, like, the main, I don't remember her name. One of the main girls that they, like, talk to and work with on the depth charger, like the captain or something, she says, actually, turns out she's coming to the depth charger and she wants to meet with y'all. And he was like, oh, cool. You don't seem happy about that. And she goes, well, apparently this dude, and she points to Therion,
has been causing nothing but trouble.
She's like, apparently he's got 2 other queens that have, like, a bounty out for him. So she needs to know if she needs to wage a war or hand you over. And they go, oh, okay.
Is this when Bryce then pops out and is like, okay, but he's in my employ and I'm the queen of the Valbaran Fae? And we're all just like, whoa.
Yeah, apparently that's when they sit down and finally get to meet the Ocean Queen, and Hunt keeps describing her as, like, terrifying.
Which is funny.
Which is funny, like, feeling
from
like
the
coming
Umbra
from him.
Mortis.
Yeah, but apparently she's just terrifying. And she starts it off with, like, okay, Therion, a lot of people, like, either want you dead or, like, have a bounty, and I could get a lot of money. So, like, tell me one good reason why I shouldn't hand you over. And that's when Bryce shows up and she goes, because then you'd have a 3rd queen who would be mad at you or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's the first time Hunt and Bryce get to see each other, and they both just kind of, like, it's an awkward setting. So they both look at each other and just like, hey.
It's so awesome.
And then so they all have this giant meeting. Oh, Hunt starts to cry.
Wow.
So happy that she's okay. Because all he knew at this point, too, is that she never showed up in hell.
Right.
So Bryce, in that moment, tells them everything.
Yep.
And the biggest thing that she tells them, especially in the presence of the Ocean Queen of all people, is she tells them about the parasites in the water.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, well, this affects you
more than
quite directly. Yeah. So she, like, reveals all of that type of stuff. She leaves a couple things out, obviously, as Bryce always does. Mm-hmm. So with the parasites in the water and everything, she goes, okay, like, will you join us in an army and, like, help us fight the Asteri? And the Ocean Queen's like, we're good down here. Like, I don't need to risk my people for a war you want to start. And she was like, well, you know, blah, 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 blah. We've been in war this whole time. All of that. She goes, well, fine. If anything, can you take us to
Avalon? What? What were you going to say?
Avalon.
Avalon!
Avalon?
I think it's Avalon because of the double L. Otherwise, it's Avalon with 1 L. Avalon. Avalon.
So she's like, fine, I'll drop you kids off.
Okay.
My note said on the submarine thing.
The depth charger. The depth charger takes them to the perimeter of Avalon, and they do some powerful stuff, and they get through. Mm-hmm. They get there, and it's like pretty bleak. Mm-hmm. And they go to the castle.
Oh, last minute before they jump off the boat.
Yes.
Therion.
Oh, Oh, this is when that happens. Stupid idiot. I mean, it ends up helping them in the end. But the fact that, yes, they take little boats. That's right. The depth charger gives them access to boats that will take them closer in so that they can get through the mists. And so, but the Ocean Queen was like, you have to stay with me. You're mine now. Motherfucker. So everyone gets on into these boats and they're about to head out, and Therion like you just imagine him like running and jumping, and he lands on one of the boats, and they're like, God, what the fuck, Therion? He's like, I'm coming with you.
Well, he was like, but I can hide behind these mists and no one can get to me.
Yeah, fair.
And but they all have so much other shit to worry about that they're all just like, okay.
Dude, he and Ithan are just like, guys, stick to the plan just for now.
They cannot.
Anyway, so they all go to a fallen. We meet. No, we've met King Morven, but we at the ball or whatever, and and at the summit, perhaps.
The summit.
But he's not a nice dude. And
Cormac's daddy?
Cormac's dad, who just did not care at all whether he was alive, dead. He just was like, he was ashamed.
He's like the worst of the Fae too, because like apparently Avalon.
I mean, I don't know if that's right. That's just how I say it.
That just sounds so fancy. Yeah, I like it. I was like Avalon. Avalon is like old school Fae.
Yeah.
Like behind the mist, they don't get any self-service, so that sucks.
Yeah. And I mean,
and it's like real,
you know, the
patriarchy.
marriage stuff is like,
yeah,
women can't hold certain positions, and they have to be married at a certain age and married off by their fathers, what have you. And we really learned this when we meet Sathya.
Here she is.
Sathya, who is Flynn's sister, we learn.
I think we said everything completely opposite, and that's hysterical.
Did you not say Sathya?
Sathya.
It's I don't know. Right.
It's just hysterical. That,
and then it's never what both of us say.
Yeah, there's always a third one.
Different. So whatever. It's fine.
I love it.
We meet Sathya, who's Flynn's sister, and she's being married off to someone?
I think like the only good options that they're offering her is
Are,
one of the creepy
one of Cormac's brothers.
twins.
No?
Are they his brothers directly, or
They're King Morven's
like cousin? Oh, who were they? They have Flynn's sister. They're forcing her to marry because the Fae women have zero rights. She's not free unless she marries one of the creepy twins. What do they call them?
Crab and Goyle.
Stop. Damn it, I didn't write it down. They call them like the death twins or like something.
Ugh.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, but it's all right.
Yeah. One of those two twins. The creepy ones.
So Sathya has to marry one of them, and they're awful and abusive and just horrible. You can't imagine. And but the only other option is being sent back to Midguard, or not Midguard, Lunathian, which
is under attack. And anyone associated with the families of these, traitors are being killed outright. Traitors. Anyway, so Sathya really doesn't have a choice but to marry one of these guys. And our bestie Therion just like steps right on up, and he's like, I'll do it. I'm like, fuck it.
And they're like, my God. But it works. I mean, they get married.
Yeah, like instantly.
They get married right away.
It just happens.
And so he saves Sathya from having to marry one of the twins. And then we sort of launch into
that whole thing.
Yes.
Okay, so before we jump to their new quest, jumping over to little Ithan down in the House of Flame and Shadow. He ends up being told by... No, she shows up. Jessica goes, hey, I got your necromancer, and guess who it is?
Baxian!
I
I don't know why I didn't guess that up until that
Me
point.
neither.
I was like, who's it going to be?
She was like, hey guys, and I was like, oh yeah.
She can do that.
So no other than Hypaxia shows up, and guess what? She's also no longer Queen Hypaxia. She has been dethroned.
Yep.
because she was just overruled because everyone was just like, nah. Because
she wanted to bring them into the modern world.
And they were all mad about
the
it.
witches.
So since they dethroned her, she also just like had nowhere to go. So I guess she turned to Jessica, and Jessica is offering and helping her swear herself to the House of Flame and Shadow.
Right.
So now she's switching houses.
So much.
Doesn't have a home. Is just like hanging out.
She's like,
and then she's also like, sure, I'll help you bring back this person that you just murdered.
She's so giving.
I have nothing else to do. But hold on, let me swear myself to this house real quick. So she has to go to the Underking and do this whole oath and do all this stuff. And she literally said BRB.
Jessica's like, it might take a while, so let's just go back to like.
Well, we have to sort more books.
Get back to work.
While they're back to work waiting for Hypaxia, they have another conversation, find out some things. But basically, this is where we find out that the Asteri was breeding the wolves this whole time, specifically to make the strongest bloodline of wolves that they could, which ended up being the Fender bloodline.
Yes.
So that's why we find out Danica this whole time was too powerful for what wolves should be. And that way, she was too much of a liability. Another reason they just had to...
Damn, I wish we had just gotten to see her in action more. That's crazy. Not a waste of a character, because she did mean so much and
we didn't get to witness any of it.
But to experience her in action more,
I know.
it's so cool.
So the fact that she started getting a little curious about the Asteri and looking into stuff, that's why they instantly wanted to take her out. So through
Micah,
through Micah was like, so in the end it was still the Asteri that ordered her to be killed. Because they're like, she's too powerful, we're taking her out right away.
Full circle.
But they're the ones that bred her to be that way. Rude.
They just can't make up their minds.
Anyway, Hypaxia's back.
Yay!
So Ithan and Hypaxia brings Sigrid back to life. And guess what? It doesn't go too well.
And guess who shows up?
In the middle of her being necromanced, as one does, the Underking goes, you know what? I decided to give her an option. So right before she comes back to life, he gave her the choice to either come back to life the way that they were going to bring her, or she can come back to life and be a reaper for him. And she goes, I'm going to choose that one. So now she's a reaper and her eyes glow nice, bright, and green.
It's like, what?
So Ithan is distraught.
It's like she would have killed him too if she had to in that fight. Like, it should be no hard feelings. She should just come back and they could work it out.
Hard feelings. So now Ithan wants to bring her back from being a reaper.
Stupid. I'm sorry.
And the only way for Ithan to do that, for anyone to do it, is guess what power you need? They need to find a Thunderbird.
Of course.
And who's the only Thunderbird that they know of?
Sophie.
But she's dead. So guess whose body we need to go find?
Sophie's.
Guess where her body is?
Avalon.
Woo! We're all going to go hang out in Avalon.
So this is a long-winded way of getting Ithan to Avalon after all. While also having so much happen. It's kind of genius, actually.
Insane. So does Hypaxia go with him, or does he go by himself?
She does go with him, if I'm not mistaken.
So they're going to go to Avalon, but before they leave for their journey to Avalon, they witness the Asteri bombing the meadows in Lunathian. And so they rush over to try and help any survivors.
Yep. And that's kind of where we leave them off, right? Sad. Pretty awful.
I remember reading that part and like it just kept, I was like, we
I
need
know.
Sophie. Oh, she's dead. Where's her body? Oh my God.
Like, if you had read really anybody in this book, just like their straight POV, like straight through, Ethan's would just be like, in like hell, death.
I just feel so bad. He tries so hard.
That's what I love about this character. Is like
the sweetest.
He's just a guy. he's just a guy, Ithan, and like he's just trying to do the most, and it never works. So back in Avalon, what makes the I'm trying to remember what makes Bryce and the squad able to go into the Volin archives / the caves. Isn't it just like a threat that like she has her like father?
She used her father's notebook.
Oh yeah. That's right.
She was like, I have his doodles and his tea.
Right. So she sort of strikes a deal with Morven. Am I saying that right? King Morven?
Cormac's daddy.
Cormac's dad. Yes, the King of Avalon. Bryce strikes a deal with the King of Avalon. I'll give you my father's notebook with all the secrets
his
and
diary.
answers, his diary, literally. But we're going to go check out your books or whatever. And he says, okay. Whew. So then we kind of go off onto this grand adventure. In teams. And we all split off. And you've got Lydia, Flynn, Declan, Ruhn exploring the archives, and then Ruhn, Hunt, Bryce, Therion, Sathia,
his new wife,
the newlyweds, spending their honeymoon in
the
caves underneath the Fallen, helping Bryce with something. Therion probably is like, I don't know what's going on. So basically, they are looking for the rest of Thea's power.
She needs the last third.
Just the last third. And so they are traveling through these caves. All right.
More caves.
What happens? So, well, Lydia and Ruhn make up.
Yeah, they do.
And get together and have a romantic moment. Or a few. And we're very happy about that. But that distracts them from That distracts them from Flynn and Declan being kidnapped by who we learn are both kings, the King of Avalon and the Autumn King. But we don't know that because we're following Hunt, Bryce, and Ruhn, Sathia, and Therion as they're walking through these caves. Does anything big happen before they...
I love that Ruhn and Lydia don't realize because they're too busy.
I know. So, like, again.
It's so funny.
Again, people, all of them individually get so easily distracted from this, like, life and death situation that they're in. And they don't care.
It's so good.
It's amazing.
That's basically, yeah.
That's it until, well, both kings.
Oh, because they have the creepy twins with them.
Attack them. Bryce uses, like, her light or someone uses their power.
She causes like a cave-in again.
And she separates them and they all head further into the caves.
Yeah, and this is where Bryce and Hunt get in like an awkward little fight in front of everyone. And I was like, guys, no.
I know. It's like they have this same fight a few times in the middle of this book. And it's very real, you know. Like, again, I'm all for them fighting instead of one of them just bending to the other's will constantly. So, you know, I can appreciate it. But I'm also like, right now.
Yeah, I was like, guys.
Save it.
Get along.
And they had just reunited. And it's like this whole thing. So that's all upsetting. But they're venturing into the caves. And they realize that the caves are made of the black salt, which they can use to call the princes of hell.
Because they find the room that Helena's
body.
Where she used to communicate with
Idis. And Apollyon. Apollyon.
So this is like they find a little room.
Yeah.
This part I was confused about because she like leans down and she goes to like drink the water.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is this magical water? Like, like, she just knew all the steps. Like,
That happens with these SJM girls now and again.
They just
ladies.
know
They're just
automatically what to do.
I'm going to try that.
Oh, because they were identical to the ones in Prythian.
Okay.
So that's how she finds her way around.
Sure.
I guess.
Yeah.
And, yeah, it ends up, like, indicating that this is the room Helena would communicate with Hel.
Okay.
So that's when Bryce goes to drink the water, and that's when Hunt's like, don't. And she gets so mad at him, but he's like, but don't do it without me.
Yeah.
So then they drink it together.
Stupid. And then they're like, they show up in hell.
I was so excited.
It's It's really cool. They're sort of like in this,
Just like mentally there.
yeah, mind video call almost.
They just like their bodies lay down to take a nap.
Yeah.
So everyone just has to like awkwardly protect them as they just like lay on the ground.
We're just gonna, yeah. And then, so now they're chatting with the Princess of Hell.
I was so excited because as
This
excited
part
as
was
I
so
was
crazy.
to see Reese and everyone in Akatar World,
Yeah.
I was disappointed that Bryce didn't go to hell.
Me too.
Because like House of Flame and Shadow and everything, I thought Bryce was gonna be in hell in this first part of this book.
Sabrina
and,
the Teenage Witch mode.
Yeah, I was so stoked. So then at the
know,
same time,
that's true.
I'm not sad that she was in Prithian because amazing, but at the same time I was like, wait, I wanted like
And we've
hell.
gotten so many like teeny tiny glimpses of the princes,
Yeah.
like speckled throughout the series. We were anticipating a big trip.
So when this happened, I got excited that we
Yeah.
at least got to like go there a little bit, and they're like in this creepy river on this boat.
Yeah, like Phantom of the Opera.
Yes, that's exactly what I was imagining.
Of course.
But then it was Ada
Aidis is how I say it.
Aidis, who greets them, and he goes, "Hey guys, get on my boat."
Okay.
And when they show up to the pier, this is when the Prince of the Pit says, "Welcome home, son."
Womp womp womp.
I did like a full mouth drop
I
at that
know.
point. And then we get a huge info dump.
Yes. This one was kind of fun, but okay, main points sort of we learn, well, most excitingly, we find out about Hunt's lineage. Essentially,
It made me more sad.
Essentially, really, that he was made.
Yeah.
Like he was made for Bryce, in order to be that charge for who this like prophecy or like an eventual descendant of Thea who held that power.
Yeah. Or who would ever like gained the full power,
The
I
full,
guess.
who had the potential to have the full power. They created Hunt to be able to charge that exact power.
Because they also reveal in that like they were responsible and they bred the Thunderbirds.
Yes.
So they were the ones that created the Thunderbirds in the first place, but those like didn't work out right the way they wanted to.
Yeah.
So they ended up using an angel mother to like use half of the power of like the Thunderbirds that they kind of created, and then to like form a baby with this angel woman. So that's who Hunt's mother was. So they needed to create, he was just like an experiment. So it was kind of sad.
I mean, he came out pretty great.
We love it.
So wait, just remind me real quick. But the angel, that was his mom or
The angel was his mom.
his real mom that raised him?
Yeah.
Which is so beautiful.
She was like a little surrogate for the Princes of Hell. She made a deal with them.
So amazing. Did we already always know that his mom was an angel, or is this the first time we learned that?
Yeah, that's why he's an angel.
I just didn't know if he didn't know like why he was an. You know what I mean?
No, he knew his mom for a little bit when he was young.
I know he knew his mom. I
Oh.
wasn't sure if like he didn't know if she wasn't an angel or something, and he was by somebody else. Anyway, still.
And that's when they mention like, oh, it's weird that you still have like the crown on, like the.
Yeah, you should be able
For
to
your
just
head.
like take care of that.
And he's like, oh.
That's a lot. He's just like, oh yeah. Kind of
It's like,
forgot
you can
about
just
that.
like get rid of it whenever you want. It's
Yeah.
like, okay. This is where they basically explain clearer to Bryce that Thea broke her power into thirds. And that they know the last piece that Bryce needs is somewhere on Avalon.
Yeah.
So she's like, okay, sweet. And so she just needs to find that, and then she'll be powerful enough to be able to be the one to wield the sword and the dagger together.
Yes.
And with this exchange of information, they want, once Bryce gets the rest of the power, they want Bryce to open up the Northern Rift again.
Right.
So then the
So we can come.
Hell's army can come and help. And she's
Yeah.
like, why the hell would I do that? We've worked our whole life to keep the Northern Rift closed. And they're like, well, we're the only ones that would be able to help you destroy them. So.
Fun.
Yeah.
Field trip. That's it, right? Pretty much.
Pretty much. Oh, they did ask, like, oh, I was literally made to, like, help Bryce on this journey. Did you guys also, like, mean to make us mates? And they're like, no, that was just, like, the way of the world. They're like, oh,
So cool.
wow. And they, like, they give each other, like, a little look. And I was like, how sweet.
Fight over.
Yeah, instantly. And that was basically it. I was sad it happened so fast.
Yeah, I wish we'd gotten a bit more time there that wasn't just like chatting, like standing and talking.
They really like sat down at a coffee table and were like
I'm literally in hell in my mind, I guess.
Yeah.
So then they wake up. They are surrounded at this point by the kings.
Mm-hmm.
They wake
and
up
all their friends are like in fire, like
yeah, they're trapped by have little imprisonments done by the Autumn King. And Bryce is like, I'm done.
She's at it.
I'm done, man. And she unleashes like all of her power onto.
We just get a nice big fight scene with her and Hunt and the two Fae Kings.
Mm-hmm.
At one point, her father goes to overpower her, and he's about to kill his own daughter.
Yep.
But Ruhn
saves her, and this is when he kills him. He kills him first.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yes. So Ruhn saves his sister and kills his own father. Yay!
And as he's like about to die, he like, I forget what he stabbed him with. Oh, he uses the Star Sword.
Yep.
How symbolic. And he ends up driving the Star Sword like right through his dad's heart. And like in that moment, he tells everyone and his dad that he lied about his
what was told to him at the
Oracle.
Yeah, the Oracle. Mm-hmm.
And that this whole time he was just lying to him and everyone. And that he said, the Oracle told me that the bloodline would die with me.
So good. And you've been wondering the whole series, like when he's going to, when it's going to come out, when he's going to say it, and right, what does it mean?
What does it fully mean? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, I always just thought I was going to die and not have any kids, but now I just know is that like the patriarchy bloodline will end with me. And then he goes, all hail Queen Bryce.
Yay, Queen Bryce.
It's pretty sweet.
It was amazing.
I like felt nice for Ruhn to be able to be the one to do that, but at the same time
100%.
I like felt bad for him. You know, it's like
yeah,
it's
but
sad.
I mean, he was tortured by his own dad his whole life, so
pretty terrible.
sayonara.
Ruhn like beheads him crazy. And then I think Cormac's dad goes to say some shit and Bryce is like, shut up.
She's like, no. Does she say like this is for Cormac? I can't remember.
I hope
It has
she
the
does.
vibe of that.
Yeah.
And she just like Shreks him.
Yeah.
And she like buries both kings like deep down into the depths.
Mm-hmm.
And then Lydia and Ruhn, on their little quest, were able to learn a thing or two about how to help Bryce access the remainder of Thea's power. And basically they find there's another 8-pointed star. And Bryce uses the Star Sword to like stabby stab the star in the room. And like this burst of power erupts and Avalon heals.
Mm-hmm. Because the power was like released like out in the world again.
Yes.
But like she also consumed it. But now she's like full power.
So now Bryce is at full power, which is so cool.
She's fully charged.
And she's like, I am now the queen of the Valbaran Fae and the Avalon Fae.
Exhausting. So
She doesn't even want it.
I know. So she kind of like, because that the magic was released again. Yeah, like the island is now healing. And yeah, so the cave starts to like explode and implode on itself a little bit. So they get out and they are like witnessing the island like come back to life.
Yeah.
And this is what I remember texting you too, because Flynn and his sister both get down on the ground and they're like feeling it. They're like, I could feel it, the earth, like the magic, it feels, and they're like helping it grow.
Yeah.
And I was like, they both have earth magic. I was like, when did that happen?
Yeah, we totally just did not.
I had no idea.
Nope.
And they're like, oh, it feels so great.
It's like, oh,
So that was
sweet.
cool. I was like, good for you, Flynn. How
Yeah.
fun. And yeah, so they watch. Oh, and then the mists open.
Yeah.
Which means that they get soul service again.
Woohoo! So basically they want to connect Avalon to the rest of Midgard.
Mm-hmm.
And so that they can all kind of join forces against the Asteri, basically.
Yeah.
I guess that's because they get cell service is when Declan
sees
gets the memo that the meadows have been attacked. And that's the end of part 2.
It was so sad that like they all had like such a great moment of like, oh my god, look at the island, it's flourishing, and then Declan's like,
that's just how it is in this one. It's crazy, the ups and downs.
Bryce and Hunt like finally made up though.
Yes,
that's important.
Yay!
So why was it just the devastation of that the Asteri like attacked civilians? There's no other direct significance of the meadows, right? To anyone specifically or personally. It was just that, like, what?
Who lives there?
That's what I think it's just, like, it was the city, and they, like, bombed part of the city, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't that.
I don't think, yeah.
Okay. And I think, like, the panic at first is that they just wanted to make sure, obviously, it wasn't anyone they knew. Or
a lesser protected area.
Mm-hmm.
So more
that's probably
chance of death.
Oh.
And destruction.
It was sad.
It was very sad.
I'm like, why you gotta do that? I guess it was in retaliation of...
And it's very much like a callback to the first book and like the first big thing, the big ending there. Mm-hmm. And like how devastating that was to read about. Like how helpless everyone was.
Mm-hmm. So they're like, oh no, let's just do it again.
Yeah, for it to happen in this like very populated city again is scary.
I guess it was just like their big declaration of like, okay, we'll start a war if you guys really want it.
Exactly. So they have a few more messes to clean up here. For sure.
They also caused a few messes. Oh my god.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Ethan. Going through all this, so it's still I will forever miss the first book. Like there is such a magic in that book. I just loved it so much.
It was just so much more like intimate, like and very mysterious.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't know all these other characters as well as we do, if at all. And it was just, Bryce trying to live her normal life, grieve, and then also be thrown into this like crazy.
It was really fun to be thrown into all of it with her. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And now she's changed so much.
She's Queen Bryce now.
Now she's queen of the Fae, which
she hates. Yeah.
She hates Thea. She hates like all this stuff, and it's like
she's got a lot to work through.
But that's how you better understand her character, in that she's still willing to take that to help everyone else for the greater good.
I think in part 2 is when she has that quick moment too, like when they were all in the caves together, right after both dads just were shreked. Yeah. I think she has that moment. She looks at all of them because there's a Myr, there's Faye, there's an angel, there's Lydia is, what is she technically called when they like
Galathinius? Assassin?
The one who like when you transform into an animal. The I don't know. Yeah. But like, so they had like a bunch of different kinds, like all right there in the caves, and she's like, maybe we can work towards like a better tomorrow.
Yes. And she does specifically look at Ruhn and think, look what this evil man did to him all his life. And he, even as a Fae, is still willing to like fight for his people.
She's like, you're not all fair, but
it's the perfect example of it. So it's beautiful.
I know.
So good. Just part 2 is like a whole book.
The nonstop Sigurd stuff just absolutely cracking me up. We never even got a chance.
We never even got a chance with her, to like get to know her or anything.
I thought it was the funniest choice. That like not only was he trying so hard to bring her back, but she still doesn't. She chooses to not even come back because it was him that was bringing her back.
He's persistent. We'll give him that.
I love him.
Me too. I don't care what anyone says. Like, that's the charm of this series, is just
The
how
messiness.
messy they all are as characters,
Yeah.
and just like what happens because of that.
Yeah, like Therion jumping off of the boat.
You can't help but laugh. I couldn't help but die laughing when that happened, because I'm like, of course he would.
And then he's like, I'll marry you. And he like, stop doing anything. Like, please.
It's sort of like, writing a character to take the easy route.
Yeah.
Which in most stories could be construed as just like a cop out or like annoying. But in this, it's just of course they would. It just makes sense.
Oh,
it's so great.
Yeah.
And it propels the story like so well.
Even more happens in part 3. So.
Yeah, we'll finish up with part 3 and hopefully be able to get into some like baby bits of like theories for future Crescent City books, and also tie-ins to ACOTAR, how that's going to continue. There's like a lot of stuff, and we can do, we're going to talk about ACOTAR and theories like sometime soon, so we can tie that into the Crescent City ones into that. But we should definitely share it. We'll share final thoughts and feelings about
a lot of feelings
about Crescent City as a series, and the last book especially. So
cool.
How do you feel? Are we good?
I feel great.
Okay, cool. Well, this meeting of the Fangirls Club is adjourned.
Hurrah!
Huzzah! Bye. Good night. So long.
Haley's
Farewell.
ready for bed.
Auf Wiedersehen. Good night.